in an unboxing per se, because this is received about 2 weeks after I got this from a box. And this is the 9408 digital desk phone, as Avaya has marketed this set. I believe it's still available new from Avaya. I'm not really sure because I don't follow them like I used to anymore. This phone mimics the 9600 look, which was released about 10 years, more than 10 years ago. I think more like 13 or 14. This model mocks the 9600 series phones, marketed, I think 12 or 13 years ago, 2006-ish, when the original 9600s went to the market. This has been Avaya's look for, like I said, over a decade. This phone, I don't know when it was made, but now Avaya markets phones without English labels, which really kind of sucks. I'm not trying to be against multiculturalism. It's just more of trying to make things easy for our user to understand, and having a lot of icons I personally think is more confusing to the user, especially when Office telephony has, like everything else these days, have gone away from thinking of the user. So with my policies aside, I'm going to plug in the phone, and you're going to see some interesting magic. Now the PBX that's in the room, you might be able to hear the fan from afar, is Definity R9 G3, I think G3 SI PBX, running again a release in a PBX software released in the year 2000. The screen models that Avaya would introduce would be let me try again. One of the other releases that Avaya had with screen phones was actually a year after this was released, circa 2001. The Definity R9 was released in the year 2000. So this phone, the PBX doesn't understand that there are phones that can actually have a screen functionality. In fact, Avaya probably wants to bury themselves in the history of Office phones, but the 9400 series digital phones is not a new line. In fact, the number in itself was actually used in marketing by AT&T and Lucent. The 8400 series telephones was, they made a special version for the outside the United States for a more global look, and it actually predated the 6400 series that had that curvature, that modernist look. So the first models were called the 9400s, and they were identical to the 8400s. So you had the 3-button, 5-button, 10-button, one with this screen, one without a screen, and even the 3400, not 3400, the 34 button model. So you had that going on as well, and it was literally, if you were to look at the firmware, it was probably an 8400 series phone, and I don't even think the 9400 was even a configured model. You would just program it as a need for 34DX, whatever, and the thing would accept it, because really it was just a different case. Sharks, I don't follow them like I used to anymore. This phone mimics the 9600 look, which was released about 10 years, more than 10 years ago. I think more like 13 or 14. This model mocks the 9600 series phones, marketed, I think 12 or 13 years ago, 2006-ish, when the original 9600s went to the market. This has been Avaya's look for, like I said, over a decade. This phone, I don't know when it was made, but now Avaya markets phones without English labels, which really kind of sucks. I'm not trying to be against multiculturalism. It's just more of trying to make things easy for our user to understand, and having a lot of icons I personally think is more confusing to the user, especially when Office telephony has, like everything else these days, have gone away from thinking of the user. So with my policies aside, I'm going to plug in the phone, and you're going to see some interesting magic. Now the PBX that's in the room, you might be able to hear the fan from afar, is Definity R9 G3, I think G3 SI PBX, running again a release in a PBX software released in the year 2000. The screen models that Avaya would introduce would be let me try again. One of the other releases that Avaya had with screen phones was actually a year after this was released, circa 2001. The Definity R9 was released in the year 2000. So this phone, the PBX doesn't understand that there are phones that can actually have a screen functionality. Don't know when it was made, but now Avaya markets phones without English labels, which really kind of sucks. I'm not trying to be against multiculturalism. It's just more of trying to make things easy for a user to understand, and having a lot of icons I personally think is more confusing to the user, especially when Office telephony has, like everything else these days, have gone away from thinking of the user. So with my policies aside, I'm going to plug in the phone, and you're going to see some interesting magic. Now the PBX that's in, so this phone uses a 2-wire setup like this. You can take a regular house line cord because it uses the pins 4 and 5 and the 4 and 5th pin, so most of the single pair wires should work. So like I said, without further ado, I'm not going to keep teasing you. I'm just going to plug this in onto the line port, just up here. It does a checksum test because it runs software, and it's backlit. Now I turned it off because it was keeping me up up at night because it was in my room. Now I'm going to change the screens and sounds. I'm going to change the brightness. I'm going to crank it up so you can actually see the thing, and you hear the confirmation tone. It's a little bit different. So the most part you're going to see here is that essentially you get this screen, but it's actually, this came from my friend Wes, and this is the setup that they have, so I know it's from there. But unfortunately, it cannot pass through any of the settings of what the button does. Now, what's interesting is if I press any of the buttons, which actually will not work because this is a 6408, but theoretically I tested this. My trick was to program this as a 6424, and all these buttons will work, and as you hear, you just saw this blinks. It just stopped blinking. That's weird. There we go. So that's one of the downsides. Now, theoretically, you could take a 1408, which is the equivalent of the 1600 VoIP phones for, again, the 2-wire, and it could theoretically work on a Definity R9 PBX because, well, you don't have to worry about the screen. You wouldn't have to worry about that. So that's kind of interesting in the sense that, again, if you're using this in production environment, I cannot be liable for your silliness of using a newer phone on a very old system. Again, this is what I own is technically may not be legal. Sorry. So just be aware of it. This is for educational purposes anyways. The extension is inaccurate. Like I said, it came from the system from out west. The extensions, like I said, there's no way for me to reprogram it. Unfortunately, I did do a quasi reset and it doesn't work, so that kind of sucks. But it's kind of cool because if you need a night light in your home environment, this phone will do it. In fact, this screen will go blank, will go dark after a few hours of inactivity. It's not on a timer like the VoIP phones can. And what's ironic, this is rather interesting. This is getting powered directly from the DCP port, the 2-wire proprietary line. It is not using any power adjuncts. So to power that screen is almost akin to running, 24 lights on a 6424 perhaps. I don't know what the power consumption is. Because granted, you have 8 lights, and then, they change, so you're not, powering that many lights. Perhaps, I don't even know how many little LEDs it's taking to backlit the display, because I can't see it from this vantage point. So it's rather interesting, because it is a backlit LCD. So, if you put a light on the LCD, you can see it. So I found that to be very interesting, and I checked against the Definity, which is on a UPS. It wasn't fluctuating on the power consumption or even the usage as well. Now, unfortunately, okay, let me just go back here. Now, unfortunately, this set is not part of a page group, but the page works just like any other digital phone. I'm gonna page my other phone, which I know is. Attention, please. We're just doing a test on the paging system with this Telset. Thank you. So that works without a problem. You saw the priority ring. It does priority ring. It does all the rings, and stuff like that. Now, what's interesting, and I'm just gonna warn you right now. I may have to cut the picture out. Is that it does contacts. It does call history. Outgoing, all calls. So how it's doing that is actually, maybe it cleared it. Okay. Now, hold on, this is going to be edited. What's interesting with this phone is that you can, it remembers your last call, your outgoing, the all calls, it didn't receive calls. That's interesting. Okay, so it doesn't do that. I called the extension, didn't remember that. I could actually turn this into a contact if I wanted to. The contacts work. Yeah, so this is rather interesting. So that's being powered on the device and on the phone. So the magic of this lovely protocol is that it can, the magic between the hardware and the software, the magic between the hardware and the software, it can do really cool things. Although, unfortunately, when I hit the phone button, it wants me to do the directory. That's not what that's kind of a little bit unfortunate. But again, what it's doing with these phones is that, I don't want to give out too much proprietary information, but basically, when I hit a button, it's telling the PBX, I'm basically giving what, in computer terms, an escape command, right? When I hit a certain button, it's going to trigger the machine to do a certain thing. So when I hit 5, I'm, essentially, and it kind of wants me to think that I'm doing, I gotta be careful here. When I hit the different buttons, it's basically sending a little pulse of a command of, when I hit the menu button, it's gonna give me this command, whatever. That's kind of how these things work. They're like miniature dumb terminals where all the intelligence is in the PBX. Now my voice is killing me because I'm getting over a mild cold, so that wraps it up. But just tune in. I'll have more videos featuring office telephones. Maybe I'll do a review on the Mitel VoIP phones, and the Astra, the very classic one. They don't support this anymore, but for basic SIP telephony, if you're against a firewall, it makes a great desk phone. I'll do a review on that later. This is my lab, and in the coming weeks, this will be a production space for more videos I will be producing. So that is a wrap. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.